Hello and welcome to the Football News Zone, the show where we round up all the biggest stories in the beautiful game right now. We're getting towards the end of the January transfer window, but which stories from the beautiful game have been catching our attention this week? This week we explain why Norwegian football clubs have voted to ban VAR as soon as possible. We attempt to answer whether this is actually the worst Manchester United side of all time, like Ruben Amorim claims. And we also bring you all the latest transfer news and gossip as well. All that and a whole lot more is in today's show. Let's dive in. So Arsenal against Wolves in the Premier League this weekend. A really controversial game, a very eventful one, a very close game as well. This ended up being a 1-0 victory to Arsenal in the end as they look to try and keep up with Liverpool, try and keep their Premier League title hopes alive. This was also a really eventful game for Wolves because of course they're down near the bottom of the Premier League and this loss means that they are unable to make up any kind of ground on the bottom three and open the door potentially for some of them to gain points on this weekend. Although Ipswich and Southampton so far have lost, Leicester City play later in the weekend. But I want to talk about a specific incident. I want to talk about what happened with Lewis-Skelly because he was one of two players sent off in this one. It ended up 10 players on each side by the end. But Lewis-Skelly was sent off pretty early on in this game. It was in the first half. I think it was only about half an hour or so into the match. Now I want to look at this because a lot of people were saying, because I couldn't watch this live being in England, unfortunately I cannot watch matches live at 3 p.m. That's just a thing here in England. If you want to learn more about that, go check out my 3 p.m. blackout video and I'll explain on that. The international viewers, honestly, you guys don't know how lucky you have it. You can literally watch more games than me in my own country. It's ridiculous. But everybody was saying that this was not a red card. The only person that didn't outright say that this was not a red card, surprise was Mike Dean. Mike Dean didn't outright say that it was a red card. He said, and I quote, something along the lines of, I can see why they've sent him off, but he didn't really agree with it. I don't think he wants to throw his refereeing friend under the bus. I know. Shock horror with that one, but I've got the incident here now. I would show you this, of course. I know some of you guys do get a bit annoyed at the fact that I don't show you these incidents. I cannot show you anything because otherwise this content will get taken down. I will get a copyright strike and potential legal action, all that good stuff. Don't really want that, to be honest. You can go look up the incident yourself if you want to see it, but I'm just here to give my take on it. This was, like I said, this was a close game. This was at 0-0. Both sides having opportunities to score, the main one being Kai Havertz, of course, with that header about 6 yards out, really should have scored, but in the end Arsenal did win this match, of course, so it's not really the worst thing from Havertz to have done that. Now there's a corner here to Arsenal. The corner ball is hit in, it's headed out by a Wolves player, and then Arsenal try and recycle it on the edge of the box here. Now, this is what happens. So I can't tell who the Wolves player is here, but there's a Wolves player who kind of latches onto a loose ball and looks to break at pace, looks to go up the other end of the field as fast as possible. Now, Lewis-Skelly, in a bit of an experience, maybe didn't really anticipate how fast the Wolves player was going to break out of the traps here. For me, he does a tactical foul. I think he's deliberately fouled him here. He's took one for the team, and this is what is normally a absolute banker of a yellow card, not a red card, a yellow card. He's tried taking a player out that is trying to go and he's basically stopped a counter attack with a foul. Pretty much that's what's happened now red cards are sometimes brandished for being stopping an attack or preventing an opportunity when you're the last man. Lewis-Skelly is nowhere near the last man here for Arsenal. He's only about 30 yards out from the Wolves goal, and there's a good 3-4 Arsenal players all around that are racing back, so it's not even a question that Lewis-Skelly was the last man here. And honestly, I just cannot believe this. I mean, this tells you, right? I mean, if you look at some of the Wolves players, I don't know his name, I do apologize, but there's a Wolves player there that's looking at the red card from the referee and being like, what? He can't believe it either, and that's how you can tell that this is not a red card at all. I am just absolutely dumbfounded by this. I really. Now, I'm not one of these people who's like feeding into the conspiracy theories that some Arsenal fans have, that the referees are all against him and the Premier League doesn't want them to win the title or whatever. I'm not going to comment on that. But honestly, with some decisions like this, you have to think, you have to understand why some Arsenal fans think this. It's not without complete, it's not completely made up. This is something that I can see why they think this. I don't agree with it. I feel that's a bit I think that's a bit conspiratorial. I just think the referees in this country are absolutely useless for the most part. And this being a absolute textbook example of it. Unbelievable. I mean, Arteta and the Arsenal players can't believe it. Now, let's have a look at the replays. Now, the first replay, it's just a bit of contact. All you can see is a bit of contact between Skelly and the Wolves player. For me, yellow card, foul, free kick to Wolves. No question. That is absolutely what this is. Now, there is a second replay, and this is the one that Mike Dean was talking about. Now, if you stop it at the moment that Skelly actually makes contact with the Wolves player there while he's trying to run, his studs are up. He is making contact with, like the side of his shin, sort of. And when you freeze it, when you go over extreme slow motion, it looks bad. But how many times do we say this about incidents where they look way worse when you slow them down or stop them than what they are in reality? That's something that VAR does, because before this would never have been a question. Referees would not be able to watch these replays. They would see it in real time, and in real time, it's not that bad. That is what the VAR saw, and the VAR basically said, you don't even need to go to the monitor to review this. You were definitely right. This is 100% a red card. This is not a clear and obvious error. We're not going to try and overturn it, which I just think is laughable. I really, really do. I don't see how this is dangerous play. I really don't. Like I said, you slow it down and it doesn't look amazing, but in real time, this is an absolute textbook taking one for the team foul. There is no malice in there. There is no intent to injure him. There's no intent to do a red card foul. Why would he want to do a red card foul at that? I just don't see it. I personally don't see it. I think this is I often do stick up for the referees, because I often say, I can see why they said this. I don't necessarily agree with the decision, but I understand why they made this decision. I'm really, really struggling to understand how they've made this decision. I completely disagree with it. I think this is a yellow card. And I think, I know Arsenal will, of course, appeal this. Of course they will. But I would be absolutely stunned if this doesn't get overturned, because Skelly, because of this, Lewis-Skelly, because of this, I believe he will have a 3-match ban. And for someone who's a very promising youngster for Arsenal, that's a real shame. But I really do. I think, they're obviously going to repeal it, and I'm hoping that the ban will get overturned. But this could have quite easily been points dropped for Arsenal. They only got that goal pretty late on, and obviously they were down to 10 men and a man down compared to Wolves for a good portion of the game. So, yeah, for me, yellow card all day long. Not a red. Not a red in a month for Sundays. But, guys, what do you think? Wolves fans, Arsenal fans, come on, weigh in on this. Get in the comments. Let me know what you think about this, because maybe I'm seeing this wrong, but from everything I've seen, all the angles I've seen, from all the opinions I've seen from different people here, I cannot agree with the referee here. I cannot see what he's seen. I just don't see it. So, an interesting story came up last night while I was doom scrolling through Facebook, and I actually overheard this on the radio as well, just to back up how big of a story this is. VAR, the video assistant referee, something that is incredibly polarizing and downright unpopular in a lot of countries. Whether it's improved football or not is the subject of a lot of debate. However, not all leagues have introduced VAR. I think the Swedish league does not have VAR, but most top flight leagues these days does have VAR, at least in some form. And as far as I'm aware, no country has ever gone back on that. No country has ever introduced VAR and gotten rid of it until now. Or at least potentially anyway, because football clubs in Norway have voted to scrap the video assistant referee after extensive protests in the country. Now, I think this still has to go to a vote with the Norwegian FA, but the clubs themselves have said, yeah, we want to get rid of it. Now, let's have a look at this story, though. Full article over on, well, it says The Athletic, says the New York Times. I think they're effectively the same thing when it comes to this. But yeah, shout out to these guys for covering it. I'll just read out the article and give my thoughts at the end like usual, guys. Clubs in Norway's top 2 divisions have voted to discontinue the use of the video assistant referee in their domestic leagues. The 32 teams in Norsk Top Football, the organisation that represents clubs in Norway's Eliteserien and First Division, which is the Premier League and Championship equivalent for Norway, passed a motion that requests the Norway Football Federation, NFF, board to recommend that the Federal Assembly adopts the discontinuation of video assistant referee, VAR, as soon as possible. 19 teams voted in favour of scrapping the technology. The vote does not discontinue the use of VAR with immediate effect, and the decision will be made at the Federal Assembly at the beginning of March. I believe right now the Norwegian league is not playing. They have a break over the winter, as you would expect in a Nordic country, so they're not currently playing, so this might happen in time for the start of the 2025 season for them. This means that even if NTF is negative about the further use of VAR after today's meeting, there is a possibility that VAR will be part of the Eliteserien in the future as well, a Norsk top football statement read. We see that the technology has potential, but we see through today's discussion and subsequent voting that the majority of our clubs believe that the current version of VAR does not work well enough. Cato Haug, the chairman of Norsk Top Football Board, said. A proposal for VAR to be scrapped for the 2025 Eliteserien season was not passed, so it will be there for the next season coming up before the alternative motion to scrap the technology as soon as possible was adopted, so it could be 2026. Haug told Norwegian news outlets, Idrett Sportekikk NO. That's probably Miles. You can see it on the screen. The first motion was not passed as the consequences of not thoroughly studying the impact of VAR's removal for 2025 were too great. They wanted there to be a little more room to find out the consequences before taking such a clear stance, Haug added. A VAR report from the NFF in November stated the federation was being criticised for its communication style regarding VAR, adding players acknowledge that VAR enhances the fairness of refereeing decisions, but for call improvements in time management and more predictable procedures. VAR was introduced into the Eliteserien in 2023, but has frequently been the subject of supporter protests. One incident in July saw the top flight match between Rosenborg and Lillestrøm abandoned after supporters threw tennis balls, fish cakes, fish cakes, threw fish cake. Oh my god, I've not had a fish cake since my nan was alive, bless her. That's the best part of a decade ago. That is such an odd thing. I mean, I guess they're big on the fish over in Norway, a big fishing nation. And smoke bombs, that's more typical, onto the pitch in protest of the technology. Elsewhere in Europe, Sweden became the first country to reject implementing VAR after fan backlash in May. The following month, the Premier League clubs rejected proposals to scrap VAR following a motion from Wolverhampton Wanderers at the league's AGM. I believe Wolves were the only team to actually vote in favour of getting rid of VAR at that meeting. And that was going to be a kind of topic of discussion really within this video. Will the Premier League scrap VAR? Will this happen? Absolutely not. No, I can't see it. I mean, even the clubs themselves have voted pretty much overwhelmingly for VAR, so don't see it in a month of Sundays, to be honest. They've invested too much money in it. And in theory, it should get better with that automated offside, but that's not happened yet. That was meant to be implemented in November, and apparently it hasn't done so because they use a different ball in the Premier League compared to Europe. Well, it's round, isn't it? How different can it be? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, as far as I'm aware, Norway are the first country to abolish it after getting it. I mean, they only got it 2 seasons ago, so it's really showing how unpopular it is. I mean, for my money, VAR can be a great thing. It has potential to be a good thing in sport, but overall, you'd have to say the implementation of it has been poor at best. And the biggest problem for me, or one of the biggest problems anyway, right now, initially I think there were big problems when it came to offsides that were, offsides that were very, very marginal. You couldn't really tell because of the motion blur. They've got rid of that now, which is good. But for me, as a supporter, as someone who hopefully has a Premier League team to support next season, we'll see how that happens. I would say that overall it's just less enjoyable having VAR in the stadium as a supporter. It takes too long, the communication just isn't there, and that can be improved in time for sure. But honestly, I prefer watching us in the Championship right now, mainly because we're winning all the time rather than, well, not winning all the time, winning most of the time rather than getting beat 5-0 every week. That does help, but from a spectator point of view, I would say that the communication's just not there. And we've seen a little bit of that. We've seen a little bit of that in the Carabao Cup tie, Spurs against Liverpool, wasn't it? They showed what they can do there. That should be rolled out to be standard across the Premier League. We, in the stadium, should see what the referees see on the big screen. Every stadium has one in the Premier League. Most professional football stadiums have a big screen. I've not been to one that's a professional stadium that doesn't have one. I think every club has one. It's probably a requirement, to be fair. So there shouldn't be that separation there. You should not have a better understanding of what's happening in the game at home in your living room watching it on the TV compared to actually being in the stadium, paying your money for your ticket. That is a poor fan experience for what is an incredibly expensive thing to do these days. I was horrified at the price of what it was to go down to Bramall Lane a few weeks back to watch us against West Brom. That was really eye-opening. couldn't believe how expensive it was. Premier League's going to be even worse. So, yeah, for me, that should be something that should be standard. But unfortunately, the FA are very slow with things like this. We've only just got to the point now where clocks can go past 45 and 90 minutes at the end of the first and second half, respectively. That only came in a few years ago. Before that, you had to time it on your watch or put a stopwatch on your phone or something like that. Pathetic. So we'll see what happens, guys. For my money right now, I'd rather not have VAR personally, but I don't think they'll ever scrap it in England now. They won't do it. They've got too much pride for it and invested too much money in it. But what do you guys think? Did the Norwegians have this correct? Have they done the right thing here? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments below. So it's fair to say that Manchester United are not in good form now. That is abundantly clear. And it again was highlighted by the fact they were well and truly beaten at home by Brighton. A 3-1 defeat at Old Trafford for the Red Devils, and it's not really a surprise. That's the scariest thing for me, and I've said this on a number of occasions. These kinds of results that would have seemed, unthinkable or a massive shock a few years ago. Were you surprised by this result? I wasn't. Brighton have got a very good recent record against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Unlike Manchester United themselves have a pretty bad record at Old Trafford really right now. They're losing a lot of games, particularly at home. And Ruben Amorim, a man who is not afraid of going through the press conferences and trying to get his words across and trying to, use the media to influence his club in a positive way. He downright said after this game, this is maybe the worst team in the history of Manchester United. Now, I'm going to give my opinion on that statement because, there's a lot to it there. That's a really hard thing to say, obviously. But, certainly within the Premier League era, I think there is a very strong case to be made that this is comfortably the worst side that Man United have ever had over the last 33 years, or whatever the Premier League's been going for now. It's a long time. So let's have a look at this, guys. Let's have a look at what Amorim said, and I'll give my thoughts on it at the end. Full article on thefootballchronicle.com as always. Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim has described his team as maybe the worst in the club's 147-year history, following their 3-1 home defeat to Brighton and Hove Albion on Sunday. The loss marked Amorim's 4th Premier League defeat at Old Trafford since taking over from Erik ten Hag, who was sacked at the end of October. Speaking candidly after the match, Amorim said, "We are getting a new coach who is losing more than the last coach. I have full knowledge of that. I am not going to change no matter what. I know we can succeed, but we need to survive this moment. I am not naive. We need to survive now. We are the worst team maybe in the history of Manchester United." The Portuguese manager acknowledged the headline-grabbing nature of his statement, but emphasised the need for the team to recognise their current struggles and work towards change. "I know you want headlines, but I am saying that because we have to acknowledge that, and to change that, here you go, your headlines." United's performance against Brighton was particularly concerning as they failed to register a shot on target in open play. With the host dominating the game at Old Trafford, the result comes on the heels of 2 positive results against Liverpool and Arsenal, which Amorim previously stated would provide him with a better understanding of his players' capabilities. I think it's meant to say the visitors dominating the game at Old Trafford. I don't think you can say that Man United dominate that game, really. While United managed to survive a scare against bottom place Southampton before winning 3-1, they were comprehensively outplayed by Brighton. There we go. I'm pretty sure the visitors were meant to dominate, according to that sentence before. Just to clear that up. Amorim has now lost 7 of his first 15 games in charge, leaving United languishing in 13th place, just 5 places and 10 points above the relegation zone. Amorim's comments on the team's underperformance were unequivocal. "Everybody here is underperforming, no matter what the circumstances. We are underperforming and have to accept that," he said. "It's unacceptable to lose so many games for any Premier League club. Imagine Manchester United." So it's a really hard moment. We have to continue. We have to continue. There is no other way. We have to suffer and continue. The damning assessment of United's current state highlights the immense challenges Amorim faces in turning the club's fortunes around. The Red Devils have now lost 6 home Premier League games this season, their highest tally from their opening 12 matches of a league campaign since 1893-94. Additionally, they have conceded the first goal in each of their past 5 Premier League games at Old Trafford, equaling their longest such run in the competition. United's tally of 10 Premier League defeats this season is also the earliest they have achieved double figures for a loss losses in a league campaign since 1989-90 under Sir Alex Ferguson. While relegation seems unlikely, Amorim did acknowledge last month that it was a possibility. I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think they're going to get relegated, but this is Manchester United we're talking about here. This is not Ipswich Town or Wolverhampton Wanderers, you know. This is a club that should be doing a lot better. I mean, what can't be denied is they are underperforming, yeah, absolutely. We've seen what these guys can do. They beat Man City. They drew against Liverpool. They should have won against Liverpool under Amorim. You know, these guys can perform, but for whatever reason, against the so-called lesser teams, I mean, I think that's insulting to Brighton because they have played so well for a number of years in the Premier League and played some really good football. So for me, you know, this result was not a surprise, given where they are in the league table. I mean, like the article says, I mean, they're in 13th place in the Premier League right now. They're level on points with West Ham, who are a bit of a crisis club. They're below Crystal Palace, who were in the relegation zone not that long ago. And they're above Spurs. Spurs are having even a worse season, let's be real here, guys. But yeah, I mean, relegation is not going to happen realistically. It's just not. But humiliation is. But the thing is with Man United, right? They beat Arsenal in the FA Cup. They could genuinely, and this sounds ridiculous, they could genuinely do a double this season. They could do the FA Cup and Europa League. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm not saying given how they're playing it's possible, or probable I should say, but I think it's possible. You know, they're that kind of team. They can really perform on the big days, but then again, in the FA Cup and in the Europa League as well, you will play a lot of so-called lesser teams. These teams that Man United seem to really struggle playing against under Amorim for some reason. They just can't do it. 3 defeats in the last 5. They're in 1 win in the last 5 as well. They've lost a bunch of games, particularly at home. It's really, really going badly. But is this the worst Manchester United side ever? Well, in the Premier League era, the worst Manchester United side ever in terms of placings was the one last season where they got 8th place under Ten Hag. Now, when it comes to the worst ever, that's a very hard thing to say. I mean, the last time that they were this far down was that season I mentioned before, 1989-1990, where they did finish in 13th place under Sir Alex Ferguson. But you know what they also did that season? They won the FA Cup. They're that kind of side. They're a giant team, and even when they're underperforming in the league, there is always a chance for them to do something in a cup competition. That is always possible. So, yeah, crazier things have happened, guys, honestly. They are the defending FA Cup champions, after all. That is a fact. So there is still hope, of course, but this season in the Premier League, they're not. I really, really don't see how they're going to get into a European place through finishing like 6th, 7th or whatever. Just don't see it. And if you go worse, and if they slip down even further, you have to go all the way back. Their worst finish aside from that was all the way back in 1973-74, where they were actually relegated. The season after they were in Division 2 and they won the title and came back up, and then they were in 3rd place in what would become the Premier League, what was then the First Division, the top tier of English football. So it's been literally since the 70s. If they slip down to 14th, that'd be the worst finish in the league since the 1970s, which is crazy. I mean, they got relegated like 6 years after winning the European Cup, what's now the Champions League. So yeah, is this the worst Man United side ever? It's hard to say, but is it the worst side in the Premier League era? Definitely, without a doubt. I don't even think it's particularly close. I mean, last season they were bad, but this season they really do seem markedly worse, and they might well recover, but I can't see them catching the likes of even Newcastle, Bournemouth. Those kinds of teams have been far better and far more consistent. Man City are underperforming this year, and they're in where are they now? They're in 6th after they won 6-0 the other day. They're up to 4th now, actually, because of goal difference and stuff. But yeah, I can't see them getting enough consistency together to beat the sides that are currently in those European places, or what could be European places. The Chelseas, the Villas, the Bournemouths, the Brightons. Brighton hammered them. So yeah, maybe not the worst side ever, but the worst for a lot of people's living memories. You know, if you're under 40, under 45, this is the worst Man United side of your lifetime, without a doubt, I think. Welcome to the Football Chronicles Daily Transfer Roundup, the show we round up all of the biggest done deals and transfer rumours every day during the January 2025 transfer window. Today is the 25th of January, so let's dive into the rumours. But first, let's go into some done deals that have been confirmed over the past 24 hours. There have been a lot of rumours about Morgan Whittaker from Plymouth Argyle, one of the few bright spots in what has been a terrible season for Argyle in the Championship. He was in the stands the other day for the 5-0 demolition, I think it was, in the end by Burnley. So clearly he was on his way. He has joined Middlesbrough in a transfer worth £6 million with a potential of £2 million of additional add-ons depending on how he performs at the Borough. Also in the Championship, my side, Sheffield United, have completed the signing of Tom Cannon from Leicester City. This is a rumoured move to be around £10 million in total, although it did not stop us losing 3-0 at home against Hull City yesterday, which I'm not mad about. But yeah, obviously that's a good signing for us. I'm very happy with that. But yeah, the result on the pitch the day after, not so good. Now, I did bring you the news about Kyogo going to Rennes over in France, and apparently the deal for that also includes a return of Jota, a bit of a swap deal between the two clubs. So although they might lose Kyogo during this window, they're getting Jota back, so could be worse. So yeah, very capable striker up in Scotland was Jota for Celtic when he was there in his previous spell. So let's get into the rumours, guys. Let's go into the rumours that are currently circulating the interwebs on the football scene. Aston Villa have joined the chase for Wolves and Brazil forward Matheus Cunha, who is interested in Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, Manchester United, and a partridge in a pear tree. That is just every club really at that point. I think he just wants to get out of Wolverhampton, and to be honest with you, who can blame him? Have you been to Wolverhampton? I want to leave that place as soon as I go there, let's be honest here. I think Noni Madueke would definitely agree with me on that one too. Anyway, Barcelona's attempts to sign Manchester United and England forward Marcus Rashford may be scuppered as they have not sold enough players to free up funds. Shock horror, Barcelona have no money, never saw that coming. Man United will make a second offer to Lecce for Danish defender Patrick Dorgu after their initial £25 million bid was rejected by the Italian club. Man United manager Ruben Amorim has been left frustrated by the club's lack of transfer activity, with no players bought or sold this month so far, although Rashford, Anthony and a few others are rumoured to be leaving in the near future. Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr are preparing an official offer for Aston Villa's Colombia striker John Duran during this window. West Ham of course made a bid of £56 million I think it was, and that was rejected, so they will need a lot of money to tempt John Duran, not only with the transfer fee but also with the wages no doubt too. Speaking of West Ham United, they have been told they will need to sign the Dutch striker Brian Bromwich on a permanent deal, as Ajax have no interest in loaning them out during this window. Real Madrid have opened preliminary talks with Bayern Munich and Germany midfielder Joshua Kimmich over his summer move when his contract expires. A free transfer going to Real Madrid. They won't be the only ones. I reckon Trent will be another one of those as well from Liverpool. Man United's Alejandro Garnacho will join Chelsea this month apparently after the 20-year-old Argentine winger's talk over potential Napoli switch has stalled. Arsenal have not received any formal bids for utility player Alexander Zinchenko despite being on the transfer list. Atletico Madrid are keen on the Ukraine international Zinchenko, who can play in defence or midfield, but Borussia Dortmund have cooled their interest in the player. Brighton and Hove Albion are considering whether to allow striker Evan Ferguson to leave on loan this month, with a host of other Premier League clubs interested in the Irish international. Chelsea have made an £8 million bid for Deportivo La Coruña's Spanish under-21 international Yemery Hernandez, but this has been rejected. Ipswich Town forward Ali Al-Hamadi has completed a medical at Stoke ahead of the Iraqi international joining on loan for the rest of this season. FC Barcelona are monitoring Nottingham Forest defender Murillo, with Juventus and Chelsea also interested in the 22-year-old Brazilian, despite him signing a new contract at the City Ground. Aston Villa are planning a move for Besiktas and Turkish forward Semih Kılıçsoy, I think you pronounce that, before the close of the transfer window. And the final rumour, Atalanta are determined to hold on to Nigerian forward Ademola Lookman amid links with a Premier League return for the, Nigerian international. Now he was born in England but represents Nigeria, as that just said. So yeah, there we go guys, all the biggest transfer done deals and rumours as well on this day. The transfer window is going to shut soon, just a week or so to go until that happens, of course. Which deals do you think are most likely to happen? Which ones are the biggest deals you've seen so far during the window? Your thoughts in the comments below as always. Are you happy with your club's business so far? I want to hear your thoughts. Like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as well, and we'll see you very soon guys. Have a good one.